It was a low point after the fight against Zure Pan, but thankfully Wei was able to bring her back to her senses. Day 26. Heathcliff was made to do the first class of this day, and seeing as an overweight, simple-minded cat and a flying rabbit haven't appeared either, we can assume no one else was coming for that hammer yet. That class was to help them break the enemy's morale. The moment you break that in front of your enemies, you've already lost, so don't. It doesn't matter how many there were, or how threatening they look. Has he ran away, regardless of what they were up against? No. Even if it was a thin-skinned bloke that's hunting you down because he stole his hair salon coupons. Yeah, Big Brother Ricardo's probably thin-skinned even by the standards of the middle. Sinclair didn't think so either. Heathcliff left it to nerds to come up with strategies. He saw no problems that can't be solved by boldly rushing in headfirst. Dante didn't say this, but they knew that Ishmael and Otis would have stopped him from doing so. Heathcliff didn't think that they were good enough in that regard. That's why neither of them could say what matters in the assembly hall. Jia Xichun was silent at this. Dante saw that this was a scar on her pride growing sore again. He'll help them to grow some backbone. He wanted them to let out their anger, encouraging Sinclair to do so. Sinclair was hesitant. Heathcliff told him not to worry about offending him. He can take it. Unlike them, he's built up enough thick skin of all kinds. Well, for all kinds of insults, thanks to the years in the backstreets. He sees himself as invincible. That's not what the early days would suggest. Then Sinclair made a pathetic attempt at telling him to shut up in a stuttering way. But Heathcliff told him that this was good. Then Sinclair was fully enraged, being hypercritical by saying that he's hardly a teacher, that his class sucks. All he's doing is standing around and trying to look cool. Jia Xichun was impressed by that one. Heathcliff was immediately silent, but then he looked and appeared like he was about to attack him, saying, "That's it, you little is what he would have said in the past, and he'd have struck him with his weapon, which isn't usually that hammer. He's clearly improved since then, as he has. The fire in his eyes has grown, telling him to remember that feeling. Sinclair intends to. Then he got to the practice between them. Time for the two that he's teaching to spar, telling them to grab their weapons. This was concerning to Sinclair. Heathcliff apparently got a spine from fighting in the backstreets. They break his arm, he breaks their legs. Jia Xichun asks if this is what besties meant. She was clearly confused. Jia Xichun, no it's not. Sinclair decided that they needed to get on with this. Jia Xichun asked if Sinclair wanted her to go easy on him. Sinclair didn't. This match was one where Jia Xichun won, but Sinclair, who was stronger than he was when he was using his base identity, didn't go down easily. Heathcliff stopped them, seeing this as good enough. He didn't expect it to be as close as it was. Sinclair thought it to be a good match. Jia Xichun thought that most usually tire out as the fight was prolonged, asking what was that at the end. This was clear to Dante as, well, that this was due to what they were put through these last 26 days. Dante expected it to be easy for Jia Xichun, seeing as Sinclair was in his base identity. But Dante suspected that it was thanks to the Night Drifter. Either that or the mark on his forehead. The mark that Demian had. Dante saw a glimpse of Sinclair that they'd only seen in a select few worlds. Dante asked if Sinclair was okay. Sinclair confirmed that he was, and they weren't using real weapons, and the fight ended before any significant damage could be caused. He was feeling a bit of a fever on his forehead. Yeah, this mark was noticed on by Demian, but Sinclair didn't feel it at the time in Carl. Dante saw that Sinclair noticed the single red line on his forehead. It wasn't like anything bad happened when the mark manifested back in the Manchaland, but Dante noticed that both Demian and Rim were the only ones to have shown that mark. Yes, this was worrying. Demian was more than he appeared, and Rim is a distortion, and one of Yi Sang's former associates, who isn't an enemy, or at the very least has no N-Corp affiliation. Jia Xichun then asked Sinclair if he ever ran away from home. Sinclair asked, where was this coming from? Jia Xichun could tell that he was one that would rather stay at home, but it's clear that his life hasn't been entirely fine. Sinclair told her that he didn't run away from home. He left home. Because he didn't have a choice. She asked how that felt. He replied by saying that it was like melting away into nothing. He suddenly had to face the whole terrible world alone. It was so overwhelming that she didn't quite understand. She's been at the top of the game her whole life. Jia Xichun left Dagyuan Yuan by choice. She didn't tell Wei this, but she felt lost. She had so much that she had to do, so much responsibility. Neither of them were ready for the world when they left home. She felt just as lost back home. Sinclair told her that Heathcliff left home as well. They paid a visit to his manor the manor that he grew up in, and that was between 2 to 3 months ago. It's his now by default. It was exciting for him. He spent much of the journey trying to make himself look presentable, doing his hair. This was deeply embarrassing, and Heathcliff told them that something came up. He left and told them that class was dismissed. Jia Xichun might feel lost at home, but at least she has a home to feel lost in. Sinclair doesn't even have that anymore. As before he became one of the damned dozen, he was manipulated by Chroma, an infiltrator of Nagul Udhama, who on her first visit, or rather her time as an infiltrator in Carl, she kills Sinclair's parents, and the next time she visited Carl, when Dante and the Damned Dozen went there, it was within District 11, she burned down Carl, killing all there, prosthetic user or otherwise, and even exhuming the corpses of Sinclair's family. Right in front of his burning former home, so Sinclair has nothing for him in Carl anymore. Limbus Company, unless he knows otherwise, is all he has left. Day 27's classes were up to Dante, but day 28 was when the Night Drifter was taking the first class of the day. Sinclair was asking if he was going to teach them any techniques. This amused him. It's only been a few days since his training began, yet this wasn't impressive to Jia Xichun. Her other martial arts teachers would teach them their secret techniques. Night Drifter was wondering what they were on about. Since they supplied him with some good booze, he was in the mood to teach them a useful trick. Sinclair was surprised by this. Night Drifter asked them what he taught them when they were swinging their sticks. Jia Xichun responded by saying that she should forget all those things that put pressure on her and face nothing but herself and her movement. Night Drifter called that as only the start of it. First, it's emptiness of sound. The slightest friction from the tips of your toes, the ruffle of your clothes, your breaths, erase them all. Erase every ripple and echo that they leave upon that world. Dante saw that he was like mist now, despite his wild movements. They hear nothing. Second, emptiness of form. To have a form is to provide your foes with clues to predict your next move. Forget the weapons in your hands. Forget your structured forms. Break the mold. Become the flow. Let only your will remain. Ah yes, the flow state, as demonstrated by Bruce Lee, where he saw it as being like water. Dante saw that the Night Drifter's movements have randomness seep into them until any pattern was lost, deceptively clownish with his unpredictable movements, while also hypnotic and floaty. Last, emptiness of mind, telling them not to force the direction of their heart, to empty their desires and intentions, stab without thinking, penetrate without gazing. Both Sinclair and Jia Xichun's necks were marked with small imprints of the twig that pressed their skin. Zilu, who had been standing next to Dante all along, had leapt a small distance away, seemingly deep in thoughts, and Dante felt their neck hurt, even though this wasn't their class. Seeing this as something that fits Yisang's expression, to lose one's nose with eyes open. He told them to immerse themselves, make sure that their descent is slow and gradual. They've been focusing entirely on the self with their swings so far, so they should find it quite easy to reach the state of emptiness of mind. Sinclair, let's just say that the Night Drifter reminded him to take it slowly and gradually, yet he did this quickly. He'd have taught him everything had he entered his tutelage long ago. Jia Xichun was struggling more. The Night Drifter saw that she found a clue to the emptiness of form. Jia Xichun asked what technique was that. He saw it as just movements at the end of the day, no need for flashy names. A truly secret technique should come without a name. Sinclair thought it best to give a name for an alternate move. Yes, an alternate move so the Night Drifter, after drinking more good wine, goes with plastered sleep unrestrained ripples. Jia Xichun thought that name sucked. Dante understood that Night Drifter made that up just now. Zilu then approached the Night Drifter. Apparently it was a while since she saw someone give a lesson like that, starting from it's very fundamentals. This amused him. There are few that are patient enough to slowly learn from the very fundamentals in a world with infinite technological advancements like the Veil. He's only fortunate enough to have found two who are willing. Zilu could tell from his gait and tone that he used to be among the 10 Blades of the East. He stopped her there, as he didn't put anything on her tab. Telling her to stop with these questions, he had none to give. No answers, to be more precise, seeing the past as like smoke. He long emptied any history worth delving into. Clearly, that's a sensitive subject. Day 29 had classes largely determined by Dante, but after them, Dante was supposed to teach a class, but they're honestly not sure what to do there. It's not as if they have the ability to suddenly teach them to hear the fathoms of other people's hearts. Sinclair agreed. They can't have a heart-to-heart out of nowhere. Wei then informed them that it's why he installed that box called Messages from the Hearts by the door. When lessons first started, anonymity is the greatest strength of it. They can share the concerns that has been eating away at them without fear of judgment. Jia Xichun saw that as a great idea. She could see how everyone can be more honest about their feelings behind the masks of anonymity. Well, why not? That's how the internet has worked for years. Wei picks the one on the bottom. This would be the first message. And based on how it's written, it's certainly Heathcliff. He's asking if those consultations even do anything, making Dante question how effective the Mask of Anonymity truly is. Heathcliff asks what the point of these messages were, if you're going to whinge in their faces. He has not much to say except that his next door neighbour keeps making weird noises at night, wanting something done about this. Something about a smoking head over and over again. It was annoying to him. If it's not dealt with in a week, he'll deal with it in his own way. Dante wasn't sure what he meant. Jia Xichun saw it as personal grievances. Sinclair suggested that they see what the next one says. It was clear that this was Rutis, who asks who dares harrow the executive manager with such useless, weak-minded complaints. If they're going to waste time and cause trouble, she'll personally hold them responsible for that. They should prepare themselves for consequences. Sinclair felt like she was right there, speaking into his ear. Jia Xichun never thought that written words could cause hearing damage. Dante decided that it was time to move on. The next one didn't know if it was just them, but someone had probably been spying on these papers. There was proof too. The piece of paper was folded into a padlock knot shape, but whoever spied on it did a pretty bad job at replicating it. This was Ishmael. She also mentioned that her compass also disappeared. She got that for surviving the hellish depths of the Bellamont trenches. Yes, the Bellamont trenches. Likely during her whaling days, if they were undersea trenches. If it was after, it was likely what she was doing before Limbus Company found her. Believing that they should re-establish some house rules soon. Jia Xichun asked about this theft report, asking if one of them stole her compass. Sinclair didn't think any would have a reason to do so, no matter how hard things got. Then they moved to the fourth note. Something troubled them. Sinclair was relieved to find a real concern. Then this note said, or rather asked, was it type A that caused the explosion, or was it caused by replacing the clamp part from the shattering gear? This was Faust. Then she found the likely answer, telling whoever read this not to be too concerned. Dante saw that much was cleared up. The fifth note wanted to share this with everyone. Jia Xichun saw this as serious for once. They couldn't let this slip away like nothing happened. It was the incident that happened aboard Mephi some time ago. This was Rudyard. Likely before they arrived in Hongguan, asking if they remembered how someone smashed an alarm clock against Dante's head while they were sleeping. No one ended up figuring out what happened there. Dante remembered that day. Jia Xichun wanted context to this. Sinclair doesn't exactly understand when this was, but there was a loud shattering noise outside at night, so they all ran out to see what happened. Dante added that no one managed to find any credible clue, so they just let it slide. Roger then said that Dante told them that they were fine, so they moved on from that, but she saw Gregor's biomimetic arm. What if he lost balance carrying that alarm clock with one hand? She's trusting the anonymity of that. Dante didn't think that Gregor would. The sixth note was clearly Masson. The autistic level of detail was a giveaway. He said that the alarm clock, broken due to shock at the time of the incident, was pointing precisely at 22:32 hours, and at that hour, only 2 individuals were awake for the night watch duty. This caught Dante's attention. Jia Xichun saw this as turning into an investigation. Dante understood that one of the two of them was Sinclair said it was Faust. He asked if they had a conversation with Faust that morning. Dante confirmed that they did, briefly. She made a few criticisms of their combat style. They pretended not to hear her, as they had no response to that. Sinclair said nothing about that, and Dante asked if she had a grudge against them for that. Then we had the 7th message that was clearly Gregor asking if anyone had noticed that. He noticed a dusting of cigarette ash near the shattered alarm clock. Only 2 of them smoke. He stayed in his room. There was a witness as well. Unless that witness was a cowardly liar, she'll come forward and tell everyone exactly what happened that night. Then Don Quixote added her own notes, where she wanted to prove that she's no lying coward. Among the numerous cosplays that she wished to accomplish was the duo of Captain Scorps and the One-Eyed Navigator. Then she explained the law of Captain Scorps, which started in year 757. So a few decades before La Mancha Land went to hell and she was imprisoned in the lighthouse. After some explanation, we get to the point where Gregor was needed and she needed one with a scorpion arm to cosplay together and capture their glorious forms in photograph. He had no pipe though. Ishmael's compass was the captain's trinket, so she borrowed that from her. She spilled an entire can of tuna and the compass was swallowed by greasy juices, so it was like the in sunflower oil, not water. Despite her best efforts to restore it, the tuna smell remained. She begged for Dante's forgiveness. Jia Xichun couldn't find the words to describe this. Dante at least understood where the compass went. The 9th note was frustrated, and it was clear that this was reissue, and, well, she said TC, GW, NN, and MTL. Jia Xichun asked if this was a code. Dante asked Sinclair for a translation. Sinclair struggled as he was trying to do so with, well, it's harder with written text. He normally tries to read the speaker's tone and the general context of her words, so Jia Xichun asks if they're going to find the culprits. This made Dante feel nauseous, like something that they'd rather forget, as if a tuning fork was shoved in their head. Then Heathcliff left another message. He's going to confront that sod and tell it like it is if there's something bugging them, instead of whinging in their sleep. Now where is he? Dante, almost letting slip who that message was written by, saw that he was getting to the bottom of this. Then Yisang left a message. He thought that an apology was in order ever since the incident. He couldn't sleep well. He told Dante that it was he that pummeled their head with a clock. To explain this, he wanted to do so, but the sentence was cut off due to part of the paper being torn off. Then we get to the part where he told them do not take heed of his excuses. He writes before them in shame and expresses his willingness to accept any punishment he sees fit to dispense. Or rather, they see fit to dispense. He seeks nothing but their forgiveness. Dante couldn't believe that it was him. He tried not to reveal his name. Jia Xichun was relieved that he confessed, but something felt off, suspecting that he was trying to take the heat. Sinclair he didn't seem to think that he wanted to share any more about that, believing that it's best not to dig into it unnecessarily. Then, by the casual way of speaking, this next note was written by Honglu, where he was talking. Well, while he was writing this, he found a piece of paper someone tore off, so he was returning it there. He hoped that it would find its way to the original writer. Dante then read the rest of Yisang's paper, believing that this is the key to resolving the case. And then they unfolded the paper, and Yisang spoke of the truth of what happened. At a time before they arrived in Hongguan, Yisang asked if Sinclair had ever found himself wandering. Sinclair understood that Yisang meant if that crackling fire-like thing on Dante's head was hot like real fire, or if it would give any heat. Sinclair told him not to worry about that. It's not like they had any other way to tell without touching it themselves. Yisang agreed. They needed to prove this directly. Sinclair saw that they were asleep, seeing them as pretty tired. Yisang agreed. The ticking noise had shrank in volume. Yisang understood that they shared a thought. Sinclair suspected that they should quickly check while Dante was asleep. Yisang was having second thoughts, believing that he was making too much noise for this task just by him swallowing his phlegm. Sinclair found out how loud his heartbeat could get. It was almost too much for him. Then alerted Yisang to the alarm next to Dante. It was about to go off. They had a minute at most. He'd used the timepiece, then Ryushu entered, seeing them as rats playing a played-out prank. Then the surprise led to the alarm clock being accidentally swung and hit Dante in the head. Back in the present, Yisang said that this was the full story, where he's making a secret accusation of Sinclair. It would be easier on his heart to simply assume that he was fully at fault. That's where it ends. Jia Xichun was annoyed that Sinclair was the one that did that. Sinclair apologized to Dante. He should have been more upfront. Urtis was so adamant about utterly punishing the culprits that he couldn't bring himself to. Dante can't deny that. Sinclair wanted to tell the truth in time. He suspected that, why he was made a student alongside Jia Xichun. It was likely because Limbus company was expecting something from him, but it wasn't showing up. So they must be making him take those classes to compensate for it. Everyone else is boldly facing their own issues and slowly overcoming them, while he's feeling like he's stagnating. They've been telling him that his time is yet to come, but he gets the feeling that it came already. Dante understood that it wasn't just physical training or combat training. It was something that more than half of them had faced and were facing at that point. In his case, it's his past and the path that lies ahead, the guilt and the pressure of having failed to confront it. It was never going to be easy to let go of it. Dante didn't think that anyone had the perfect idea of how their lives would go. That's why they're all there as part of Limbus Company. Sinclair suggested that they shout at him to get his act together, like Heathcliff does. Dante would if they had to. Jia Xichun got the basic idea of what was talked about, even though she could only understand Sinclair's side of the conversation. Sinclair was about to translate, but she told him not to bother. She got enough to get the general message. This ended the case of the alarm clock. Dante asked if they knew what Ryushu was trying to say. Sinclair translated that as 2 culprits, guy with nightly nightmares and my translator. That made sense to Dante. Day 30's classes are also determined by Dante. Then it was time for the final test. Everyone came to wish Jia Xichun luck on the way there. Wei had nothing but absolute faith that she'll complete the final exam as she has done the others, believing that she'll be facing off against a skilled foe from either the Zui or the Shi family, believing that she'll wipe the floor with them. Uetis told her that she's taught everything that she knew. She has her permission to leave the boot camp. Honglu told her that she's got this. Jia Xichun didn't see it as necessary for them to come see her off. Wei's undying faith in her had not changed, although he and Zigong prepared 21 alternative solutions in case things went wrong, asking her not to worry too much. This made her question his faith in her. Upon return to the classroom, they were all greeted by Zoe Baochai, one that they didn't expect, and unknown to them, a pawn of Jia Wanchun that promised to keep her betrayal of her family between them, who hasn't kept her side of the bargain. He saw it as nice for Jia Xichun to have so many teachers from all walks of life helping her out. This was the first time seeing her in a month. He saw it as nice of Jia Xichun to have, well, Honglu asked what she's doing there. Zoe Baochai couldn't stop herself from paying him a visit out of pity, wishing that he and Jia Xichun both smiled on like nothing happened. Their blossoming years would have been peaceful still. Honglu looked visibly annoyed, at least by his standards. He then asked her to please stop talking to him like that. This was evidence that Zoe Baochai was in love with an idealized image of Honglu, not Honglu himself, as she didn't know that he could say such a thing. Apparently it's always been this way, saying that a fruit, if it has fully ripened, they have to seize it and taste its juices before anyone else. They can't just let go. They can't stand emptiness. Her brother couldn't. Her parents couldn't. But he who was born on the very same soil as they were, how could he walk so softly, so lightly? Honglu told her that he didn't. His footsteps are no longer light. Every step, every sight that he held in his eyes as the days go by filled him with abundance. He's only trying to accept everything as it is, without asking for more or less. She asked, how could one do nothing but watch when they're surrounded by such fragrance? Honglu then asked, what more does she seek? She wants to be closer, that her hands might reach him, asking if he's forgotten who sent the guest lecturer. This caught Honglu's attention. He then realized that Jia Xichun's palanquin isn't heading to the exam site, asking her for confirmation. She confirmed this to be the case as it's heading for Jia Wanchun's exam site. This frustrated Wei. He hastened to them before he lost track of them. Sprinting outside even before Zoe Baochai finished, Ishmael understood this to be a trap. Gregor asked if they should get going. Zigong asked them to calm themselves, more patient and desiring to work out a workable strategy. It was too long since the palanquin departed. It's better to move based on concrete evidence, not urgency. The way a beast chose the latter. Dante heard the sound of hooves coming from the direction Zagong glanced in. Hongru figured out that Zuri Baochai threw in her lot with Jia Xichun. Zuri Baochai all but confirmed this, telling them that the exams she's taken so far were all meaningless lies. She should have, or rather could have, shared this earlier, but she decided to follow her heart, much as he followed his. She then asked what fragrance he could smell from her. After a brief pause, he told her that he smelled nothing. She left the room wordlessly upon hearing this. This was not what she wanted to hear. She understood that her hold on him was gone. That what they had between them, or at least what seemed that way. Yes, at least what seemed that way was gone. Where her devil's bargain with Jia Xichun seemed to have cost her everything that mattered. But we need to consider that Zuri Baochai was only a pawn. She was not the true evil that was threatening Hongguan. It was Jia Xichun, who was willing to do anything that she was sure that she could get away with in order to secure and even expand her interests. Which also includes luring Jia Xichun into a trap. She truly is the inheritor of her grandmother's will. No Amnamna worm needed to warp her mind. She did that on her own. Okay, now that this minigame is completed, Jia Xichun, her stats will increase based on how much of each attribute she gains during this. How much Ji, Yong, and Ren. This will help out greatly at this point. Let's start with the singular thresholds. Yes, Ji, that's the blue one, affects speed, defense level, and evasion. 100 increases defense by 1. 200 increases min-max speed by 1. 300 increases defense by 1. 400 upgrades the evade skill, increasing base power from 4 to 6. It's also Gloom, Sin Affinity, and 3 poise potency twice per dodge, which is up from 1 poise thrice per dodge. 500 increases min-max speed by 1. 600 upgrades the evade from 6 to 8. And 2 base powers gained for every 2 types of negative effects on the target, up to a maximum of 10. 700 increases defense by 1. 800 adds a redirect counter to the evade, along with the base power increasing from 8 to 10. Yes, and this counter is the Crimson Cleave, once per turn, similar to the Crimson Phoenix attack, where base power increases by 1 for every rupture on the target, up to a maximum of 2. There's also Bleed, defense level down, and Poise on critical hits. 900 Z gives you defense by 1. And filling it up completely increases min-max speed of 1. So that's a maximum of 4 defense level, 3 more min-max speed, up to 8 base power increase with the dodge, which can be Gloom Affinity with up to 6 poise per dodge, when it was previously 3, and up to 10 base power added based on 2 well, every 2 negative status effects, with a counter-attack after dodging called Crimson Cleave. Ren, the red one, affects HP and the Jingang Bolus passive. Every odd 100 gains 60 HP and every even 100 gives the Jingang Bolus. Yes, the Jingang Bolus an upgrade. So at 200, 1 protection is added. 400 grants 1 more offense level up. 600 it's 2 protection. 800 defense level up increases from 3 to 4. And 1000 increases protection from 2 to 3. So that's HP increasing up to a maximum of 300. The Jingang Bolus granting 3 more protection and 4 more defense level up. Then we have Yong, that's the green one. That affects offense level and her first attack type, where every odd 100 grants 1 offense level, while 1000 grants 2 more. Every even 100 up to 800 grants an upgrade to her Crimson Strike. 200 grants second form, which it gains 1 coin power for every 6 rupture up to 2. 400 leads to third form, which grants 1 more base power and more clash powers gained when the enemy has 5 or more negative effects, up to 2. And the first 2 coins inflict 2 more rupture. 600 grants 4th form, which grants 3 haste next turn, once per turn, and the second coin inflicts bind. 800 results in 5th form, where 3 poison, 2 poise count is gained on use. The first 2 coins inflict rupture and critical. The second coin becomes Relentless Stabbing, where the coin is reused on critical, 2 times maximum. So that's 7 offense level and her Crimson Strike is more effective. Next we have the combination thresholds, where both stats need to exceed the same threshold. Now, with the combination of Ji and Yong, that's blue and green, this affects her second attack, Crimson Phoenix. 100 grants the second form, which reduces the requirement for coin power gain from negative effects from 5 to 4. Coin 1 and 2 will inflict 1 more rupture from 1 to 2. 200 Xian Yong increases Crimson Phoenix to third form, where coin 1 and 2 inflicts 2 more burn counts. And the third coin gains poison count based on the sum of burn and rupture instead of just rupture, along with the maximum poise count gain being increased from 5 to 10 with the poise, and the poise count from 2 to 5. 350 Ji and Yong increases Crimson Phoenix to 4th form, where on the use, 3 poise and 2 poise count is gained, and coin 1 and 2 inflicts 3 burn on crits. And coin 3 will inflict 2 fragile on crits. And 500 Ji and Yong increases Crimson Phoenix to 5th form, where on a critical hit, if the enemy isn't dead, it'll hit them with the Crimson Cleave. On the critical hit, if the enemy is dead, someone else gets hit with Crimson Cleave instead. Yong and Ren will grant a new passive for Jia Xichun, and even upgrade it. So 250 Yong and Ren will grant the Hierarch of Hongyuan passive, where at the start of the turn, one defense level up is applied to all allies, including her. 500 Yong and Ren will increase the passive's benefits to granting one offense level up as well. 750 Yong and Ren will increase both the offense and defense level up buff from 1 to 2, and 1,000 in both will increase it from 2 to 3. So at most, that's 3 defense level up and 3 offense level up. Now for all 3 attributes, Ji, Yong and Ren, this affects her third attack, and also her level. 100 of each, or all at once rather, increases her level by 1. 150 for all 3 upgrades the Crimson Spring to second form, where the requirements for attack weight gain, as in fighting more than one, for negative effects, it decreases from 4 to 3, and 1 more coin power for every 3 rupture potency and counts, maximum of 5, instead of 5 coin power at 15 rupture potency and count. Potency? No, potency. 200 of all 3 increases level by 1, 300 increases level by 1, and upgrades Crimson Spring to third form, where it's now a 2 coin move. And coin power requirement is reduced from 12 to 5. Previously, the coin 1 effect is moved to coin 2, and coin 1 inflicts bleed on hits. 2 bleed on critical hits, along with 2 poise and 1 poise count on critical hits. 400 grants 1 more level, 450 increases Crimson Spring to 4th form, where on use, 5 poise and 2 poise count is gained. 500 increases level by 1, 600 increases level by 1, and Crimson Spring is now on the 5th form, where it's now a 3 coin move, and coin power requirements are reduced from 5 to 3, and coin 3 will deal 10 more damage for every type of negative effect on the target, up to a maximum of 50%. And also does 50% more damage on a critical hit. And on hit with the third coin, 2 haste is gained once per turn. And every 100 after this will increase level by 1, so that's 10 level ups and a stronger third attack type. As far as the stat increases are concerned, that's 10 more levels, 3 more min-max speed, 10 offense level, 11 defense level, 300 HP, 3 protection, never mind having stronger attacks. Apparently at this point, she could probably give threats like that special snowflake Big Brother Ricardo, or even a WOD level abnormality like the Knights of Despair run for their money. Zigong saw this as a bad joke on Zhao Wenchun's part, down to the last day. Ishmael saw that too much time had passed. Zigong already informed her clan, including Wei. They had instructions to keep their eyes on the palanquin, as she observed much strangeness from the bearers. There were many places to which one may covertly kidnap Jia Xichun. Sinclair was unwilling to just do nothing. Neither was Zigong. But that's no reason to rush into this. She was able to narrow down the places to a few locations, with the highest probabilities of being their destination. As time's not on their side, the Haishu packs and their team will have to be mobilized separately to explore all possible options. Among them, she'll aim to send them towards... Hongdu recognized the place she was pointing them towards. Zigong called it a shut-down, glorified internment camp. Pingan, or Peace and Calm Residential Support Zone, a policy that Jia Wanchun and Jia Mu pursued, but the policy was indefinitely tabled and the zone closed off, as many voiced reluctance to pass that. But it was found difficult to believe that Jia Wanchun would admit defeat so easily, both with this and with Jia Xichun. It was a secluded place, perfect to secretly bring harm to Jia Xichun, the family hierarch, not to mention the symbolic value it carried. A place where those with power can send those that are a threat to them to not just be forgotten, but discreetly eliminated. Ishmael hoped that she was okay. Zigong told her to have some faith in her. They taught her to the best of their abilities. She trusted that she will be able to defend for herself until their arrival. Sinclair agreed, as they trained hard for that month. Zigong understood correctly that the only reason Jia Wanchun would employ such under-the-table tactics is because she knew that a fair match would not be in her favor. Yeah, to people like her, the ends always justify the means. So Zigong told them to yank her hand out from under the table and make her regret it. Dante and the Damned Dozen hurried themselves along the winding passages of Hongguan. At first they thought that they might have been able to move faster had Mephistopheles been there, but walking through the winding irregular paths reminded them why palanquins were a thing there in Hongguan. Dante saw that trouble had found them already. Something emerged from the dark, a small platoon of shadows. Gregor saw that they were surrounded. Physical forms came from the shadows, lapping their serpentine arms at them. Ishmael identified them as the C branch of the Haishu packs. The family hierarch doesn't hold their leash. Yeah, Jia Wanchun likely holds it based on how they abducted Zuri Boruchai. But they don't know that part. Heathcliff wanted to know, what now? Sinclair was unwilling to sit there and waste time, knowing that diplomacy with the C branch is worse than pointless. They need to fight their way out of this. Heathcliff asked if that was supposed to be his line? Sinclair reminding him of his lesson, fighting is all about morale. Dante observed that the classes had effects and told them that Sinclair was right, there was no time to waste. They then fought the C branch, Haishu. Yes, Rodia and Gregor have identities of those. The C branch of the Haishu, or the Snakes, are infiltration and assassination specialists. Comparable to the Shi Association, but with a more long-term contracts with whoever holds the leash, which we know is Jia Wanchun. Now, to put it into perspective, the Yo branch of the Haishu, or the Roosters, are specialists in all-out war, comparable to the Liu Association, Now, the C branch rely on speed and a debilitating poison with their stretchy arms. The lower their morale, the lower their clash power, and the lower the damage they take. Their attacks increase in coin power up to 2 based on the sum of poise and rupture. And their attack gains poise and inflicts rupture even more if they have the Deathrite Venom on their targets. One of the attacks becomes unclashable if one that has the Serpent Arm targets one with Deathrite Venom on them. It also causes up to 50% more damage for every Serpent Arm status on the one that has this, which is gained from blocking. If they reduce Deathrite Venom to 0, 1 pierce damage up is gained. This can be gained up to a maximum of 2, and up to 7.5 damage can be inflicted for free Serpent Arm. They're weak to slash, but strong against blunt. The Depth Striker attack also has Unfocused Volley, which attacks random targets, which can also deal 20% more damage if it hits the target more than once, and inflicts 1 more rupture. They also deal 15% more damage at most for free Serpent Arms. Clearly, Jia Xichun had measures to deal with any that would interfere with her plans. Until next time, hail the rabbit!